if statement, also called control statement. Personally, I see this as one of the most important parts, or the main parts of programming, the meat, you might say. When I see a course about programming, about basic programming from the ground up, I usually judge it by how they teach the part about ifs and the truth table. This is why in my course it will have at least 3 videos explaining the basics. Don't worry, it's not complex, I just want to expand more about this. So, what if does basically is how your computer makes decisions, like run this part of code or this part of code. Let's read in the documentation what it says. The if-then statement is the most basic of all control flow statements. It tells your program to execute a certain section of code only if a particular test evaluates to true. Well, for a beginner, it says nothing. As I said, as they also said, it's about the computer making decisions. By these decisions, some code may run and some code won't run. You make decisions every day, like go to the stores, if it's rainy, open the umbrella, etc., etc. You do a certain action and you don't do another action. The most basic thing you can do with ifs, and they mostly show it in most of the tutorials, is check which number is bigger. I met a second degree student the other day, and she told me that one of the things she did in work is compare values they get. If they are bigger than something, do that. So I immediately associated it to this. It's the most basic logical operation you can do in programming. Check which number is bigger. Is 1 bigger than 3, etc., etc. Let's write it down. And don't worry if you don't understand. You will get it after you see it a few times. If, and then 2 curly brackets, opening and closing curly brackets. In these curly brackets the code will execute, and in the normal brackets you will have the condition. Let's create a variable. If you don't know how to create a variable or haven't understood the last lessons, I suggest you go over them before you continue watching this or moving forward. You need to master the basics before you move forward. This is also actually part of the basics. So we'll put a here and check if it's bigger than 1. If it's bigger than 1, then the code inside the curly brackets will run. Let's put an s.o so we can actually see something on the screen when it runs. We will say a is bigger than 1. It already says so in the console because I tested it, so let's delete the 1 and just say a is bigger so you can see the change. A is bigger because that's true. A is bigger than 1. If you remember, that's the bigger than sign. So basically what happens here is that this expression behind the scene turns into true, and then it goes here. If it's false, if a is not bigger than 1, it won't run it. Let's try it. Let's put -2. You will see nothing will run. Nothing will appear in the console. But again, if we'll write something like even 2 and run it, you will see A is bigger. And that's all I want to cover in this lesson, this basic if statement. In later lessons, I will show you how to check if variables are equal and other decision making, and we will also cover the truth table, which is very important to memorize. Well, you don't have to memorize, but you will remember it by heart in the end. The most important thing is to not give up and continue learning. Programming is very hard for beginners, and if you find this hard, you may go to the documentation yourself and see their example. It's even more confusing. You can also see other examples on the internet, but this is the most simple thing you can do with an if. Well, that's it.